It's not difficult, but...
It's Black History Month. It's Black History Life for many people, but Black History Month, February 2023. I'm Aaren Perry, and pronouns he, they. I live in Lenape land in New Jersey, and I'm coming here to say some poems tonight with this awesome crowd of conscious people. For those who are conscious, this is the now of our history. For whatever things we do now, whatever things we do now, whatever things we do now will one day show the greatness or smallness of our thoughts in the sight of others. That's Ashak. I wanted to evoke his poetry tonight. So, Black History Month and Valentine's Day and the Super Bowl coming up. It's a it's a rich time. It's always a rich time for poetry, but so I'll touch on a couple of those subjects in some of these poems today, and I'm going to read some old things from this book called Open Fire that was published. I pulled this out because I just found out that the publisher is here from Whirlwind Press, Lamont Steptoe. He'll read later. And towards the Black History theme, this is a piece called He Spoke Spark for one of my early teachers of poetry, Etheridge Knight, who showed up in my high school right a couple days after he got out of the Pendleton Reformatory, where he did 10 years for armed robbery. And he said to us, high school students, what you got to learn about poetry ain't in no textbook. And we were like, oh yeah, great, it's something we can learn that we don't have to, there's no textbook. We just have to live a little. He spoke spark. He laughed lightning. He cried conflagrations. He knowed napalm. He coughed coals. He fussed flames. He imbibed embers. He tongued torches. He cussed candles. He spoke spark. If you drank the gasoline of racism at every meal, and for 60 years your words were made of flint and steel, you too would turn fire-breathing dragon for real, and you'd laugh lightning, you'd cry conflagrations, you'd know napalm, you'd cough coals, you'd fuss flames, you'd imbibe embers, you'd tongue torches, you'd cuss candles, you'd speak in spark with words that light the dark. So tonight is part of the Black Arts Movement, and so were some of the Black women poets that came to Indianapolis to the 43rd Street Library where I grew up, and just went to story hour thinking that I was going over for another story, and saw people like Sonia Sanchez and June Jordan and other amazing people who now have been highlighted with in Florida with resistance to black studies, and people like June Jordan and Bell Hooks are being taken off that list of poets that students are going to have access to. So, great way to celebrate Black History Month by taking off some of the genius history-making authors who changed our lives by what they wrote. I'm really honored to be reading here at the Pen and Pencil Club, thanks to Bob, and Larry's here, and a bunch of great people. And for me, it's always an interesting moment to come back to the Pen and Pencil Club, because I first read at P&P at one of the old locations when I was working for the Friends Service Committee for a research wing of the Friends Service Committee called National Action Research on the Military Industrial Complex, and we were using the Freedom of Information Act to get information from the Pentagon about where their nuclear weapons proliferation was going on. It was an incredible time where we revealed a lot of information through FOIA. I also first saw Miguel Algarín read at the Pen and Pencil Club. I was sitting in the front row, and the spotlights were right here. He was standing up to the mic, spitting through the spotlights. Incredible performance, poet Miguel Algarín. So I always, during this time, think of Amiri Baraka when I think of Black history, because he said these very poignant quotes about about history, really. That the past is always present here in the future. The past is always present here in the future. And he was, I saw him I saw Baraka one time at Haverford College, that as these students, filed into the auditorium, and he said, "Oh, you better do something about it. You came in here on your parents' shoulders. You better write something good to get up out of this toilet." I mean, and you could always count on Baraka to do something provocative, like calling Haverford College a toilet. But he said, if you don't think you have a drop of African blood in you, you're not from this planet. The other thing that people have a difficult time with is, he said, the race line is a product of capitalism. The race line is a product of uncontrolled monopoly capital. So he gave us a lot to think about, both in terms of Black history, Black culture, and the future of writing here for us poets. So I just wanted to remember him as part of Black History Month. And so
Liberty Bell.
I have a couple of, I'm going to stick to the themes. Thank you, Lamani. You asked me to read the Liberty Bell poem. I'm trying to keep it on a little lighter note for right now with a love poem for Valentine's Day. This is not a heart-to-heart love poem, but it has to do with a certain type of family love. Into the Promising. A Puerto Rican dad in a Phil's cap, drinking a bud with his shirt off, sparkles like a wet brown tree, up to his knees in stream water. A floating bucket tied to his belt loop of his cutoffs. A chubby crane, his beak fist plunges into until his nose touches the mirror, stares at himself while his fingers pinch a pink jewel from the clear underworld. He tosses the crab into the pail and looks at his kids splashing like ducks upriver. His wife readies a grill fire in the meadow. I wave and he lifts the bucket, tilts it into the sun so I can see the same 100 squirming crawdads, squirming lunches my father and I netted in creeks stocked with muscled crawdads. Far downstream, sunburned wasps from the same Chestnut Hill estates that loom over this fishing hollow vacation at a shoreline crab stand, wielding mallets over newspaper-covered picnic tables, frenzied seagulls hammering their catch. Their entire families turned to birds with fish-filled gullets. Both dads will still break down and stop for onion rings at the same fast food drive-thru my dad and I used to visit on the way home. Then late at night with the kids in bed, they'll stare, as mine did, into the promising light of their open refrigerators, hungry for more time, more love, that savory meat, so thin and hard to get at, as if wrapped with directions to a game, protected by the prehistoric shell of ritual. So that's a little family love poem. Love is hard work. Miguel Algarín used to say, love is hard work. So I'm not going to say any of those love is pretty poems. There are plenty of those in pop music. Love is easy, love is fun, and then they get paid for writing the blues poem after the love goes south, Sorry Street. One block up from Sad on Angry, Sorry Street cuts into nightlife at the same angle she'd look at me when she wasn't telling. These days I pass by without a glance. I can't see down Sorry anymore. Been blocked for months. Powers out, sidewalks piled with the impassable rubble of costly repair, the blue cobblestones of Pity Alley buckling down there under blinking sawhorses. That's the corner where we used to play this game. her in the streetlight standing like Stella, staring at me, starring on stage, smoking. She'd tell me to come back to her, push me away when I did, slap me for trying, cry when I said I was leaving, see if she could stand it when I stayed. Then we'd kiss and say, sorry. We used to do shots till Patty's pub closed, then hopscotch stoop to soup down sorry, all the way to drunk and rage. We both wanted out but couldn't see it. Now I wonder if it's her smoking in one of those tiny TV-lit row house windows, her face blue as an alien, or if she finally met someone special down the Agony Steel plant. I just came back for one last look. Tomorrow I'm moving out of the inner doubt section of town altogether. I can't even see down, sorry. All right, folks. A couple of poems from this older collection. What else did I bring you? Oh yeah, we were talking about the Eagles, the sports event of the century. I'm so glad I'm going to hear Larry actually read some poems for the first time. Am I going to hear, or are you just going to delegate them? Come on, you got to read at least one, man.
Yeah.
My daughter was like, oh, Larry again? And she said, how come all your friends look like Walt Whitman or like ancient sages and wizards? And I said, because they are. Larry's a living legacy of literature and philosophy and history, so if you've even walked past Larry, you've walked past Walt Whitman, Aristotle, Moses, Da Vinci. If you stood waiting for the light at 13th and Sansom and weren't standing with Hemingway and Melville, you weren't standing with Larry. If you shook hands with Larry, you've shaken hands with Socrates and Hatshepsut. If you talked with Larry, even on the phone, you've talked to Marx, Mao, and Castro. I was like, who else can I think of that has a beard like Larry's?
Gary Garcia.
Right, Jerry. I missed that one. Oh, man. You were at debates. And Dennis Brutus. Then you were at debates with Lincoln and with Fred Douglass. If you've been in his cabin, or if you've ordered a drive-through with Larry, you've been to a drive-through with Thoreau. If you've walked the streets of Newark with Larry, you've walked with Ginsberg and Baraka. If you've checked in with Larry after a near-death experience, you've witnessed the miraculous healing of Christ, of Buddha. If poetry has the power to raise bodhicitta and inspire non-aggression and self-healing through words, Larry runs a temple of social consciousness raising and has thousands of followers. If medicine can give us the tools to access our powers of self-healing, then Larry Robin is a doctor. And I hereby propose Dr. Larry Robin as an honorary doctor of literature of Philadelphia. So we have to work on that. All right, so I have to say this one to you, Jack Shit. I knew this guy named Jack Shit. Just to mix it up a little, since it's in the tradition that Lamont and I came out of on South Street at Bacchanal Bar, where if you didn't have anything new that you had just written, you couldn't read in the open. You had to read something new every week. So, since my daughter just loves cuss words, she can say them at home but not out in the world yet. She got a kick out of this one, Jack Shit. And I talked to her about scatology and the trail of waste we leave behind. I don't know jack shit, but they call me that at the zoo because I'm the one who knows the difference between shits. One of the employees lied to a visitor and I said, that's bullshit. They said, eat shit. And I said, holy shit, you lied to the patrons about the gorilla exhibit being closed when you were just too chicken shit to go in and clean up the ape shit? Now, gorillas are throwing their shit at the group of visitors who got shit-faced at the beer tent. That makes us look like dog shit. What kind of dipshit doesn't know the difference between chicken shit and ape shit? Okay, if you know your shit, what's that? That's a piece of shit, he says. And I say, no, that's a crock of shit. He told HR I went batshit over nothing, and I told them that That's horse shit. You ever see me lose my shit? You'd be shit out of luck. I was scared shitless. I'd be on their shit list. But the boss didn't give two shits. So me and this dumb shit met after work, shot their shit, smoked a joint. He said, "This is some good weed." And I said, "I guess you do know your shit." But what do I know? I don't know jack shit. I just heard he used to work here. Hearing voices. I've been writing a lot of new stuff. Hearing voices is a piece about people you see walking down the street with the earbuds in, talking on the phone with some elaborate conversation that only 10 or 20 years ago, if you saw someone doing that, you would like, they were on their way to being committed, right? Fun piece to write about. This is, where is the Eagles piece? Any question, or as Etheridge used to say in the downtime, any questions, comments, or confrontations? Come on, people. I know there's only a small crew of us here at this little picnic. This one's, who recognizes the oft-quoted Philadelphia phrase, "No one likes us, we don't care"? Anybody say to whom that is attributed? It's only a couple years ago. "No one likes us, we don't care."
Is that
He's on the front.
linebacker?
He's on the offensive line of the Eagles.
Was it Kelsey?
Kelsey stood up to the mic. That was his big philosophical treatise after winning the Super Bowl. That's a Philly sports philosophy. No one likes us, we don't care. And you'll recognize what they do. This is like some ancient cultural ritual. Guns on hips, rubber gloves on hands, men in blue with lubricating light poles in the funeral parlor district with tubs of shortening, trying to grease up signposts to keep fans from slipping to their deaths, trying to oil down statues so we can't, trying to Crisco scaffold so we cannot celebrate. Even after years of men and women crying over defeat at the vet, defeat at the link, defeat on the ice, defeat in the paint, missing targets with balls at the buzzer like kids at arcades down the shore, thirsty for recognition and a rush of purpose after generations of defeat at home and away, defeat at the docks and in the kitchens, behind the wheel, behind desks, behind bars, working for the man who wins and grins while we go home to rub our bleeding hands with petroleum jellies. They think they can just lube up the world so we can't climb to new heights on street lights, can't shinny up and scream to the world, "We won, we rule, we are stronger than we knew, stranger than they think. We know you hate us and we don't care." Before they grease me, I'm going to scale City Hall with a keg, lose my voice chanting, "Yeah, I'm going to sock a cop horse. I'm going to chase a subway until I run headlong into a tile wall. I'm going to drive an ATV up the rocky steps, do donuts till dawn, release an ostrich from the zoo and ride it down the Schuylkill Expressway. I'm going to stand up on the street signs at Broad and Walnut, cross myself, then just before I dive into the arms of the crowds to surf the mosh pit of fandom who will save me from the cobbles that have gobbled so many, it's going to hit me. Instead of praising the barbarous betting game of misogynist owners rich off black and working class talent, destroying civility for ticket sales, I can see from up here, above it all, that it's another game they slick up to keep us from real victory, from beating the enemy of the people. If we had the same thrilled 3 million people willing to drink and maraud and dismantle the status quo, we could take the 1% mano a mano. We could change everything. We could control our destiny, but then just then I slip on the Crisco-covered sign and fall into a vendor table full of stuffed Nick Foles Beanie Boos. Someone tosses me onto the hood of a buddy's cousin's mom's car for a ride up Broad. I put on a dog mask and bark at the cutouts in high-rise windows, pumping their fists at the fireworks and semi-automatic gunfire, ringing in this resurgence of hope like some strange lunar festival that occurs every 50 years, in which the doors of perception open just for a moment before slamming shut on crowds of massage-oiled millennials wearing Crisco-covered traffic cones and jousting with greased-up sawhorses to ram the oily gates of the castle, pretending to ram the oily gates, to occupy something until next season. So that's a no one likes it, but we don't care. I just read that because there's going to be another one coming. Another, another Broad Street storm of greased up fans looking for something to do after next weekend's game. I'm going to save the rest of my energy for this little open potpourri that Larry's bringing, and we'll get up with the next poet. Thank you, Bob, for having me and for allowing me to share my work. Thank you.